So, good morning, conversationalists. It's Jay, and we are sitting in the living room. That's what we do in the morning. We are preparing for another day of apparently really long politics. As I have CNN on and the television in front of me. Yesterday, there was a Gordon Sondland trial hearing in front of Congress, and then there was a later bunch of other people who testified for Congress, and then there was a debate on MSNBC. So last night was a long night of me making divots in my couch. Unfortunately, I don't know. There's a second tier of. I know there's nine different witnesses, I believe. So I don't know. There's a second tier of testimony today, but I've got a full morning where they're going to talk to Fiona Hill, who apparently is going to be the other bombshell, the bombshell that people were expecting Gordon Sondland to be. She apparently is going to, she's coming out blazing even before things start out. So I've got an interesting morning ahead of just sitting on the couch and taking this in. In the meantime, I want you to take in the conversations that we had yesterday, all of us from around the world that weren't just stuck along the lines of stuff in Congress, because very big, very cool, very interesting things were talked about all day long. So if you go to thisisaconversation.com, you can click on the link for today, 8 things to talk about for Thursday. These are all the topics that were really big the last 36 hours or so, from very early this morning to really late on Tuesday. Sometimes there's a little bit of carryover between the two bits and pieces, but you can see some of the stories that are listed, and we'll go ahead and go right there and look at some of the stories as they are listed right there. So bear with me for the slowness of the internet. A little dragging with everything going on, a lot of things moving around. Of course, you click on the link and you want to get this in your email box, so you can pull up your phone and read it on your way into whatever bullpen type meetings you have with people in the morning. You can quickly subscribe to the newsletter. And of course, if you think this really helps out, become a supporter on Patreon. The biggest story for yesterday/today is the EU says the politics matter for 5G suppliers in message to China. Now, everyone is all up in arms and has a hair on fire about 5G for cell phones. And right now, the leading technology is coming out of China, and everything that China is building is essentially a spy device to go back to China. So that's what the EU is basically, as a group, saying right there. Hey, China, back off a little bit. TNT had an issue with Charles Barkley, or Charles Barkley had an issue actually with an actual reporter, where he implied that he would hit her. Although he doesn't hit women, she's one that he might actually do that for. He called it a joke and apologized for the poor joke. Apparently the context, as a person who was literally throwing people through windows, did not work out very well in that setting. Also, a carryover from yesterday where horse racing's major players form a safety coalition. That was a story that was so big that came out very early yesterday morning that it had enough juice to stick around. Also in horse racing, money raised to install equine MRI at Santa Ana racetrack, something that was cool as well. So you can check out thisisaconversation.com and check out what's going on throughout the day. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and you actually check out what's going on throughout the day and be a part of the conversation towards the end of the week. Tomorrow, Friday morning, we will gather all the information from the last couple of days, from last Friday to this Friday, and we'll see what stories are actually going to be the top 10 stories per the week that you said. Now, we've had the changes going into the podcast. We're also doing some changes to the way things are being developed. We're not going to change the format too much this week. We're going to do the top 10, then the bottom 5, and then the shout outs and roll out of the show. But what we're doing is we are trying to capture as best as possible the scripts that we use, the readings that we use from the week in the actual newsletter. So I'm not just rambling through and trying to skip around and watching pop-ups come up while I'm reading stories from the internet off the websites. So we'll have, based on how many stories actually become the big stories, in theory, a couple of big stories a day should pan out to be all, but the first top 10, the bottom 5, we'll go through it pretty quickly anyway. So we should have a better script, better scripting, easier to read for the top 10 or most of them. We'll see how that works out. If that works out, especially since we are trimming down what we're putting into the top 10 and just reading exactly what the scripts are, it should come out to a much more tight and much more succinct and much more time-friendly version of what we're going to have today. So we'll see what happens when all this actually happens. That's what's going behind the scenes. In the meantime, as you said, th_conversation is us on Twitter. And this is a conversation. Search for that on Facebook and Instagram. And as the stories come down your feed every 50 minutes or so, right now, don't have anything loaded, so I have to go and load some things before I get stuck watching on this TV. Last story that got posted was right at 7, I believe. So I'm actually 3 minutes late getting the story posted. Every 50 minutes or so, we'll have a new story coming out for you that you can like, love, share, respond to. The more you respond to it, the more into it you get, the higher it goes towards the end of the week. We will probably pop in a couple extra impeachment things somewhere in between the day because it is big topics. But what I love is the fact that you guys jump on some of the more random topics and some of the things that are very important that aren't getting covered because there's impeachment on 12 hours a day. So thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. If you need anything else, email me at theconversationinbox@gmail.com. All your feedback is loved, even the feedback that tells me I'm not doing so great, because sometimes I'm not doing so great. Thank you. We'll talk to you real soon.